Junior sister, we really can't roll anymore. Chapter 842 Evil God. Is this the help you invited? The dragon appeared in the sky at some unknown time. When the 4 Suzakas saw Panlong appearing, their eyes instantly became wary and they also changed their positions. The 4 of them are indeed not as powerful as Panlong, but as long as they get together, their own strength will be doubled, and they can also use the power of law. This is the unique advantage. Feng Si, Wanling, you go outside the fairyland and block other alienated beasts. After hearing Feng Qingren's words, Feng Si glanced at Panlong not far away, turned his eyes, and finally took Wanling to the outside world. Feng Si was the first to make a contract with Feng Qingren, knowing that she would never put herself in danger. Master Phoenix, you have to pay attention. This guy's strength has far exceeded the Emperor's level, and his bloodline level is not low. After Feng Si warned, he took a deep look at Panlong, and then took Wanling to the outside of the fairyland. No matter how strong the alienated beasts there are, as long as there are all the Strits around it, those beasts will not dare to hurt it. Panlong's attention was originally focused on the 4 Suzakas. Following Feng Qingren's voice, it looked at Feng Si and Wanling. Just one glance at Panlong's dragon eyes made him glare. Wanling and Feng Si actually have the power of blood in them. It can clearly see the strength of the two, but it does not dare to act rashly. Suzaku, Qinglong, Xuanwu, White Tiger, the alienated beasts here have almost been eliminated. There are still many alienated beasts in the fairy world. I leave it to you. I am here, so you can go without worry. Feng Qingren's voice sounded again. But Qinglong was about to speak when he was interrupted by Suzaku. Thank you, Lord Phoenix, for your help. We will go first. Please be careful. After Suzaku finished speaking, he winked at the other 3 and led them away. Out of an intuition, Suzaku felt that their presence would make Feng Qingren restrained. At this time, Panlong had already looked at Feng Qingren several times, and finally his eyes met with Feng Qingren's. Little girl, who gave you the confidence to face me alone? Panlong spoke first. For a creature that is more than years old, Feng Qingren, who is only over years old, is indeed a little girl. Panlong, you have been dormant in the small world for so many years, why did you choose to attack the fairy world now? Feng Qingren did not draw his sword as soon as he came up. She knew nothing about the evil dragon, but she still wanted to know something. After all, the evil dragon was also involved in the War of Gods back then. Why do you think I will tell you? Panlong's consciousness spread and found that only it and Feng Qingren were left in this space. If it wanted to take action, it could easily capture her. When you come to the fairy world, are you bringing more alienated beasts with you this time? Feng Qingren asked again. There are many questions that don't necessarily have answers when asked. In fact, when asking a question, you can already get a glimpse of the answer from the other person's expression. Panlong glanced at Feng Qingren rather strangely. I didn't expect you knew a lot, but so what? Little girl, your strength is not enough for me. I advise you not to waste your efforts. Why don't you surrender obediently and I can still keep you? Feng Qingren had no reaction when she heard Panlong's words. From her position, she could have an overview of the situation in the fairy world. Things are not good in the fairy world. However, after Suzaku and the others joined, the battle began to turn. Everything was developing in a favorable direction, but precisely because it was so smooth, Feng Qingren felt a little unreal. She seemed to have overlooked something. What does the evil dragon want to get from the fairy world? Feng Qingren's cold eyes fell on Panlong. Panlong's strength is far stronger than hers. Even if she could defeat Panlong in other ways, it would be difficult to kill it. Not being able to kill it means that the memory cannot be read, so Feng Qingren can only use trial methods to get some information. However, as long as she knows what the evil dragon wants, she has more ways to control the evil dragon. The conversations between Feng Qingren and Panlong didn't sound like they were on the same channel, but they were all testing each other. Panlong became interested when he heard Feng Qingren ask Exilong what he wanted. Panlong played with the taste. What Big Brother wants to get is, of course, that he is tired of playing in the small world and wants to take over the fairy world for fun. Don't worry, as long as you surrender to us, we will not kill you. Panlong's eyes gradually became sticky when he looked at Feng Qingren. This human female looks good overall. If she takes bear cow pregnancy due, she might be able to give birth to her own cubs. Sudden. Panlong felt an extremely dangerous coming. It immediately looked around vigilantly, but apart from it and Feng Qingren, there was no one else. At this moment, Panlong put away his evil thoughts and decided to capture Feng Qingren first. As long as Feng Qingren is captured, the 2 beasts outside the fairyland will surrender. Choo-choo, do you eat meat? Feng Qingren smiled and sent a message to Feng Zhichu. But her eyes were cold, almost piercing through Panlong's body. When she first saw Panlong, she thought about eating dragon meat. Later, she found out that Panlong's soul was an evil Strit, and she immediately didn't want to eat it. She always unconsciously associates evil Strits with those disgusting corrupt people. Just thinking about the black army worm made her completely lose her appetite. As for why Feng Qingren was called Feng Zhichu, it was because she was testing whether the evil Strit was corruption. Master, meat. What meat? Feng Zhichu's vines left the space and came to Feng Qingren's shoulder. The dragon meat on the opposite side. Feng Qingren said through the message. It's not a dragon. Its skeleton is made up of other animal bones. Wait, Master, the power of its soul is a bit familiar. I seem to have encountered it in the prehistoric times. Feng Zhichu thought. Were there evil Strits at that time? Feng Qingren asked in confusion. Feng Zhichu seemed to be suddenly enlightened and said through the message, evil spirit. That is not called evil spirit. At that time, it was called evil god. Evil god is a god created by the gods to accommodate all dark forces. In the beginning, the Lord God created evil gods because after the race of gods became more and more numerous, they were contaminated by some races. The gods gradually developed 7 emotions and 6 desires, which gave rise to many dark emotions. Gods are born to have no desires and demands, and to protect living beings. Once they have various selfish thoughts, it will definitely lead to the destruction of living beings and the disaster of all worlds. But some gods couldn't control their emotions and desires. Finally, the main god came up with a way to create a god who could eat the distracting thoughts of the gods. This is how the evil god appeared. At first, the evil god was not powerful and extremely weak. After all, only a few gods had the 7 emotions and 6 desires at that time. But after the evil god was created, many new gods began to slack off in cultivating their minds. Whenever they have emotions and distracting thoughts, they all transfer them to the evil god. Gradually, the evil god becomes the container for the evil thoughts of the gods. The gods who created the creation are all selfless and dedicated. No matter what the emotion is, the evil god will follow it selflessly. A lot of things happened in the middle, I don't know the details. Junior sister, we really can't roll anymore. Chapter 843 The purpose of the evil dragon coming to the fairy world. In short, the evil god was nourished by the gods and became stronger, and even almost surpassed the main god. The main god felt the crisis and wanted to destroy the evil god, but was opposed by the gods. The Lord God discovered that the god who once had no desires and asked for nothing, and was willing to save the people from water and fire, has changed. They are no longer satisfied with the power of faith given by the common people. They want more, and they also think that the creatures they protect are not sincere enough. The main god cannot control the development of the situation. The gods no longer respect him and all pursue the evil god. The evil god gradually has a tendency to replace the main god. In the end, the Lord God chose to die with the evil god in order to awaken the gods. Not long after the death of the main god, all the gods returned to normal, and they began to protect the common people again. It's just that after the main god disappeared, the gods didn't exist for long before they were sorted by an unknown force. The power of this fake dragon is very similar to the power of the evil god, but it is not pure. There is a lot of power mixed in its soul, and it even has the aura of a vicious beast. Feng Zhiqiu told Feng Qingran what he knew. After all, there are some secrets that are not allowed to be written in ancient books. Across the way, Panlong saw Feng Qingran fall silent, her expression unpredictable, and he was curious about what she was thinking. Little girl, are you so big-hearted that you can be in a daze like this? Panlong said, and his long tail had quietly stretched. But in the next moment, a vine flew towards Panlong. Before Panlong could react, a vine pierced one of its parts, rolled up a bead, and sent it to Feng Qingran. Then another vine wrapped around Panlong's body and slowly tightened it. Roar! A miserable cry almost spread throughout the entire fairy world. Panlong struggled violently. But in Feng Qingran's opinion, it only moved a few times. Feng Qingran was not very strong before, and Feng Zhiqiu did not dare to use all his strength every time for fear of alarming other strong men to deal with Feng Qingran. Now Feng Qingran's strength has reached the level of a mortal saint, and he is still practicing ancient techniques. There are not many people who can deal with her. Of course, Feng Zhiqiu dared to use the strength of the prehistoric era. The most important thing was that it knew that Lord Mo was back. As long as Lord Mo is around, the owner will always be safe. When Feng Zhiqiu tied up Panlong and was thinking about how to deal with it, a 7 or 8-year-old girl appeared and looked at Panlong. Can you leave it to me? Feng Jingyu asked politely. Hello, I am Feng Zhiqiu, an ancestral spirit. I can give it to you, but I want to extract part of its soul power. Feng Zhiqiu immediately recognized Feng Jingyu and finished the introduction very familiarly. Own. Feng Jingyu laughed, her big beautiful eyes were like crescent moons, and her body seemed to be coated with moonlight, making her look exquisite and beautiful. Thank you, hello, I am Feng Jingyu, transformed by the eyes of the moon god. With Feng Jingyu and Feng Zhiqiu present, Feng Qingran looked at the black beads floating in front of her with confidence. It is very similar to the dragon ball described in ancient books, but it lacks a bit of dragon breath. Feng Qingran took out Quan Chong's staff and tapped the beads lightly. Click. A crack appears in the bead. Feng Qingran did not touch the bead immediately, but tapped it again with Quan Chong's staff. She's not afraid of breaking. This bead looks like it was made by external forces. As the bead cracked, the dragon on the other side stopped resisting, but was still not dead. At this time, the beads cracked completely. A black shadow shot out and headed towards Feng Qingran. The black shadow is incredibly fast. However, Feng Qingran, who was prepared for it, was faster. Jingluan's sword comes out. The black shadow broke into 2 pieces. Feng Qingran made a secret to wrap him up with a barrier. He is truly a corrupt person. It's just that the power of this corrupt one is stronger. Immediately, a burst of flame flashed within the barrier. The corrupt disappear. Quan Chong's staff absorbed the power from the bead, and a small bulge appeared at the top again, as if it was about to sprout. Feng Zhiqiu had returned to Feng Qingran and gave Panlong's body to Feng Jingyu. Feng Jingyu controlled the moonlight divine water and corroded Panlong's body bit by bit. Chu, what kind of cultivation is Panlong? Co-owner of heaven and earth. After Feng Zhiqiu finished speaking, before Feng Qingran could ask again, he continued, Master, I can deal with it because it has no defense against me, and the evil spirit breath on it is not pure, so I can defeat it, but if it is any stronger, I won't be able to deal with it. Feng Zhiqiu's tone was a bit worried. She never thought that Feng Qingran would encounter the existence of the co-owner of heaven and earth so soon. When the immortal saint and the co-leader of heaven and earth fight, there is really no chance of winning. Okay, I understand. Feng Qingran nodded slightly. At this time, Feng Jingyu returned to Feng Qingran and handed her a ball of light. Sister Feng, this is Panlong's memory. Feng Qingran took the light group and examined it. After reading Panlong's memories, Feng Qingran's eyes darkened. He was the son of the rebirth curse again. There isn't much news in Panlong's memory. It was originally a snake, but later pieced together a dragon skeleton and used many forbidden techniques to enter the dragon skeleton. Panlong spends most of his time looking for food, because when he was being cultivated, he accidentally got a trace of the power of the Tati bloodline. Panlong didn't know how many alienated beasts the evil dragon brought with him to attack the fairy world this time. It only knows that the evil dragon is here to take over the fairy world. The evil dragon is no longer satisfied with using only female beasts to cultivate alienated beasts. The evil dragon has its sights on human women. It wants higher-level bloodlines and offspring, so it wants to use fairy women to cultivate stronger sons of the rebirth curse. Fang Qingren's eyes were cold and piercing. It seemed that she thought simply in the battlefield of the gods. There are more crazy things out there. The evil dragon must die. At the same time, the evil dragon is fighting with the big Kun. Da Kun has revealed his true form. The territory is filled with water. The evil dragon also transformed into his true form. Its true form is not a dragon, but a deadbeat snake. It's just that its body and strength are not ordinary snakes. This is also thanks to being within the domain. Otherwise, just a big Kun and the evil dragon's true form can burst the fairy world. After the evil dragon transformed into his true form, his strength was much higher than that of Kun. But due to the suppression of blood, it was not able to completely crush the big Kun. Da Kun knew that continuing to fight like this was not an option. If it continues to be held back by the evil dragon, the fairy world will definitely suffer. Kun, as long as you surrender, we can enter the water without disturbing the river, but if you insist on going against me, I will not leave any alien beasts alive outside. After the evil dragon finished speaking, the snake's tail twirled, and while Da Kun was distracted, he bit him on the back. Da Kun felt the pain and immediately reacted. His huge body carried terrifying power and rushed towards the evil dragon. It has no control over the situation outside. As long as the evil dragon can be injured first, the fairy world will be saved. The evil dragon watched Kun rush towards him and immediately chose to dodge. The next moment, blue light flashed across Da Kun's body, and he heard a cry. An oppressive and terrifying force descended on the domain. Junior sister, we really can't roll anymore. Chapter 844. Evil dragon felt that all the blood in his body had frozen. The kind of fear that comes from the soul makes it almost impossible to resist. The evil dragon had only one thought: escape from here immediately and never face the big Kun again. But its huge body was trembling, but it couldn't use its strength to escape. This was originally a place it controlled, but now it has completely become the territory of Kun. The evil dragon desperately used its strength to resist the fear deep in its soul. However, no matter how hard it tried, it still could not release the imprisonment of that inexplicable power. Kun, are you crazy? You're not afraid of me. Before the evil dragon finished speaking, the big Kun rushed towards the evil dragon, and the overwhelming power fell on the evil dragon. The water was instantly filled with blood, and everything as far as the eye could see was scarlet. The evil dragon fell into the water before it even had time to scream, its flesh and bones almost falling apart. There is only one dragon tendon left holding everything together. However, after Da Kun struck out with this blow, his body softened, as if all his strength had been drained away. Da Kun looked at the dying evil dragon. There was no joy in his eyes, but more worry. The dragon tendons on the evil dragon's body mean that it is about to transform into a dragon. If the evil dragon is allowed to grow, it will probably become more difficult to deal with. I am afraid that few of the remaining strong men can reach the realm of evil dragon. The destruction of the ancient cultivation system created the evil dragon's current glory. Da Kun didn't believe that the evil dragon had nothing to do with those outsiders. It was just that the ancient times had passed away for too long, and there were no clues at all if he wanted to trace some things. Da Kun shrunk his body and tried to use the remaining strength in his body. Even if we can't get rid of the evil dragon today, we still have to destroy its carefully crafted body. As long as the body is destroyed, the evil dragon will not dare to come out for a long time. The evil dragon's eyes widened with blood almost falling off, twisting in pain as he looked at the approaching Kun. The evil dragon endured the pain and said, Kun, what do you want to do? You can't kill me. If you don't leave any strength, you will be divided up when you go out. Do you believe it or not? No one can bear the temptation of becoming a saint. Kun ignored the evil dragon, came to the evil dragon's back, and bit its tendons. The evil dragon screamed again and again. Kun, shut up. The evil dragon roared. Those are the dragon tendons that it nourishes for endless years. It had put in countless efforts for this dragon tendon, but Kun dared to touch its dragon tendon. The evil dragon gradually went crazy, but this only caused more blood to flow out and the pain to strike more violently. Kun, please stop quickly. I can tell you some ancient forbidden techniques. These forbidden techniques can allow you to seize the power of other beasts without suffering backlash. As long as you let me go, I will tell you everything. After the evil dragon finished speaking, his body had been broken into 2 pieces. Evil dragon, if you have different ways, you can't conspire against each other. The place where Da Kun spoke this time was the place where evil dragon hid the dragon pearl. Evil dragon felt Da Kun's movements and finally lost his composure and decided to fight to the death. The evil dragon was shrouded in black mist, and a strange aura spread. The big Kun took a step back, and the water in the area dried up instantly, and the strange aura failed to attach to it. Boom! The evil dragon's body exploded, and a wisp of black disappeared into the field. Da Kun felt the world spin for a while, and he fell heavily to the ground. There was a loud noise in my ears. Is this the Kun just now? Why is it so weak? Its breath is so weak, can it still be revived? Didn't it enter the domain with the evil dragon? Why is it the only one left now? Didn't I say that Kun is number 1 in the ranking of mythical beasts? Why can't he even deal with an evil dragon? Ellipsis. Are we going to save it? This question caused the atmosphere to fall into an eerie silence. Da Kun narrowed his eyes slightly, and the person speaking was the immortal ancestor and the ancestors of various palaces. The immortal ancestors did not notice that Da Kun was awake. Some of them raised their heads and looked at Feng Qingran, who was far above the sky. Her image like a god of murder flashed through their minds, with greed and entanglement flashing in their eyes. The moment it fell, I set up a barrier so that Miss Feng couldn't find it coming out. Tianchen Palace Siming said softly. The confusion in the eyes of the immortal ancestors immediately receded. Are you sure that Miss Feng didn't notice its appearance? Tianchen Palace Commander's eyes were cold. Isn't it the best proof that she didn't come here? They looked up and saw that Feng Qingran had left the fairyland and seemed to be setting up a formation. After hearing this, an immortal ancestor became bolder and walked up to the big kun and looked at it carefully. The legend that eating kun's bones and blood could make him innocent flashed in his mind. What if it really works? Just take a little risk. After he became innocent, he no longer had to fear Feng Qingran, let alone the evil dragon. He could even break the void, leave this plane, go to other planes, and obtain more resources. And Jingge of Tianling Palace frowned slightly, and the greed on these people's faces could hardly be concealed. It saved us just now. If it and the evil dragon hadn't entered the realm, would you still be standing here? And Miss Feng, she also saved us all. After Jingge finished speaking, a few people had complicated expressions and fell into deep thought. The commander of Tianchen Palace looked at Jingge with a waning smile. Ancestron, did it save us? It was just saving itself. Don't forget, the evil dragon wanted by Zhe and Kun in the first place. If it weren't for it hasn't come out yet, so why are we innocently implicated? The evil dragon just made an excuse. Do you think it will really let us go? And Jingge stared at Tianchen Palace commander, his eyes full of coldness. This commander can always stand up and stir up dissension at critical moments. An immortal ancestor stood up and said, Ancestor, we will not interfere with the affairs of your Tianling Palace, but what Tianchen Palace commander said is right. The Kun and Bai say that the evil dragon wants to get at both Miss Feng's beasts. It's natural to deal with these alienated beasts. Another immortal ancestor nodded in agreement. We don't care about Miss Feng causing us trouble. She will definitely give us some compensation. The ancestor of Tianhan Palace echoed, yes, this Kun is going to die anyway, so it should be left to us to deal with, and we have forgiven Miss Feng for the mistake she made. Let's carry it back and have a look. Maybe there is a chance to save it. The ancestor of Yuzhu Palace said and wanted to touch the big Kun. Other immortal ancestors and ancestors agreed. No, and Jingge shouted loudly. It's a sanctimonious and nice to say, but it can't change your selfish and greedy nature. I won't let you take it away. Chu Beizu stepped in front of Da Kun. At the same time, he raised the crossbow in his hand. Chu Chanji walked to Chu Beizu, fearing that these immortal ancestors would suddenly attack. Zheng. Yi Wenshan drew his sword directly and pointed it at the ancestors. No one is allowed to touch it. An immortal ancestor said with an angry face, what do you want to do? Junior sister, we really can't roll anymore. Chapter 845 Greed arises. Several ancestors spread their own pressure. Yi Wenshan, Chu Chanji, are you going to oppose us on behalf of the Yi family? An ancestor looked at Yi Wenshan and the others with murderous intent. He had to get Kun. This is his only chance. Panlong said that they had been abolished and could no longer practice ancient techniques. The Kun in front of him was an existence that freed him from his own constraints. There was absolutely no way he would give up. I only represent myself, Yi Wenshan said firmly. Chen Xianzu, some are just legends. Don't be blinded by greed. Chu Chanji's tone was quite gentle. You were saying this, are you going to get out of the way? Chen Xianzu stared at Yi Wenshan coldly, but stared at Da Kun closely from the corner of his eye. He didn't want to take action not because he was afraid of Yi Wenshan. He was afraid that doing so might disturb Yi Xingchen in the first level. Seeing this, the commander of Tianchen Palace glanced at the faces of Yi Wenshan and others before he spoke. I heard that Kun will turn into his own body after death. You don't have to worry about being without a few of you. Do you really not want to become a saint? Yi Wenshan, as long as you become a saint, you will have the opportunity to reverse time and space and save your sister. When Yi Wenshan heard this, he gradually put down the sword in his hand and fell into silence. Ming looked at Chu Chanji again and said, Chu Chanji, your Chu family was robbed of the Chuanan method by the Jiang family, and a curse was placed on you. Do you really not want to change all this? Chu Chanji's handsome face showed an extremely ugly expression. This is the deepest secret of the Chu family. Why does Tianchen Palace commander know about it? Ming saw Chu Chanji's expression and smiled, his eyes falling on Jingge, Ancestron, don't you want? I don't want to, and Jingge interrupted Ming, but his whole body couldn't stop trembling. And Jingge didn't want to hear what Ming had to say. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to bear the temptation. Who wouldn't want to attain enlightenment and become a saint, but enlightenment that came from a shady path was not what he wanted. Da Kun is the contracted beast of the Lord of Heaven. He could never betray the Lord of Heaven for anything else. Absolutely not. Ming was interrupted. He was not angry at all, but smiled even more proudly. Human nature is inherently greedy. If what you give does not make the other party change their principles, it must be that the temptation is not enough. As long as enough chips are given, no one can endure it. Everyone, to be honest, as the commander of Tianchen Palace, I once calculated that heaven and earth will give us a gift to the fairy world. As long as we seize this gift, the entire pattern of the fairy world will change. Ming said, his eyes fell on Da Kun. Whoosh. An arrow missed Ming. What gift? You just want to use everyone's power to fulfill your selfish desires. Otherwise, why would you set up a barrier in the first place? Chu Beizu looked at Ming sharply. They can be selfish, greedy, and even ungrateful. But that's their choice. This Kun was secured by Chu Beizu. Da Kun became like this today because he was protecting them. he would never abandon Da Kun. And Jingge raised his hand and set up a barrier to protect the Kun. You can't touch it, it's an auspicious beast. Yi Wenchen and Chu Chanji, who was slightly hesitant, looked at each other with guilt in their eyes. They were not as good as a junior. They did have their own thoughts just now. It's just the same mistakes they don't want to keep making. Yi Wenchen raised the Qishao sword again. Chu Chanji took out a formation disc, which could only be used once. Are the four of you determined to stand against us? Chen Xianzu said with an ugly expression. Don't talk nonsense with them, capture them quickly, otherwise when Fang Qingran comes back later, we will lose nothing. After an immortal ancestor said this, he launched an attack on Yi Wenchen. Yi Wenchen raised his sword to fight against the immortal ancestor. Although they are at the same level, the immortal ancestor has lived tens of thousands of years longer than Yi Wenchen. Yi Wenchen is no match for the immortal ancestor. Another immortal ancestor drew his sword and faced Chu Chanji. And Jingge also had to face off against the ancestor of Tianhan Palace. Only Chu Beizu was left standing in front of Da Kun, neither humble nor arrogant. However, as soon as Siming raised his hand, Chu Beizu flew out. Seeing this, an immortal ancestor quickly ran towards Kun. He wanted to be the first to swallow Kun's flesh and blood. It was at this moment. A flash of green light streaked toward the immortal ancestor with lightning speed. Before immortal ancestor could react, his body was breathless. Immediately, a beautiful shadow fell next to Da Kun and fed several magic pills to it. Then he raised his jade hand and directly crushed the soul of the immortal ancestor. Soul flies away. Fang Qingran, who asked you to kill Xianzu without permission? Do you know how important his existence is? Chen Xianzu looked at Fang Qingran, who suddenly appeared with great anger. Fang Qingran's almond-shaped eyes were slightly condensed, extremely cold, he deserves to die. Chen Xianzu's pressure spread all over his body, but he thought of the scene where Fang Qingran killed the alienated beast and finally did not take action. When Fang Qingran arrived, Tianchen Palace Chief Ming had already disappeared into the crowd. Fang Qingran, our existence is to protect the immortal world. If you kill an immortal ancestor, the immortal world will lose one strong person to protect. Has he protected the immortal realm? Don't use your past merits to talk about today's affairs. If you touch the beast on my side, you should think about the consequences. The coldness in Fang Qingran's bright eyes spread, making Chen Xianzu tremble with fear. Chen Xianzu wanted to speak, but was interrupted by Fang Qingran. She said coldly, take them away, or I will kill you all here. Chen Xianzu felt aggrieved when he heard this, but he knew that Fang Qingran could do it. Those immortal ancestors and ancestors retreated behind Chen Xianzu. There were only four left, and Jingge, Yi Wenchen, Chu Chanji and Chu Beizu, standing not far away with colorful clothes all over their bodies. And Jingge didn't really want Fang Qingran to let these people go, but he had not interfered with Fang Qingran's affairs. Fang Qingran watched the immortal ancestors leave coldly. A vine quietly extended out at her feet, and a stream of silver liquid followed the vine. And Jingge and the others were all focused on Fang Qingran and had no intention of observing their feet. Goddess Qingqiang brought Kilin to Fang Qingran. Miss Fang, let me see the big cat. Fang Qingran nodded to the goddess. Thank you, goddess. She was concentrating on setting up the formation just now, and it was Goddess Qingqiang who informed her about Da Kun. Otherwise, Da Kun might really be poisoned by those immortal ancestors. So she won't let any of them go. Fang Qingran's eyes fell on Yi Wenchen, who was seriously injured, and she felt as if she was in another world. Little apprentice. Yi Wenchεν's voice trembled slightly, and he couldn't say the rest of his words. Senior Yi, I am no longer your disciple. Thank you for helping me save Da Kun today. After Fang Qingran finished speaking, he looked away. She didn't know how to face Yi Wenchen. Fang Qingran didn't have time to think so much. She recalled the small box, told it to guard the big Kun, and turned around to go to the sky. Junior sister, we really can't roll anymore. Chapter 846 Identity Attack. Spirit World. It's the 7th day of the Divine Lord election. Only Fang Qingqiang, Jiang Changfeng, Fang Gelao, Jiang Changyu and a man in black clothes were left on the stage. As expected, the Divine Lord was chosen from among the 5 of them. Below, the onlookers looked at the 5 people standing on the stage and talked about it. What they were most curious about was the identity of the man in black. The ancestor of the Jiang family looked slightly gloomy, and his eyes fell on Qin Hanyan. Master Qin, the strength of the man in black on the stage is unpredictable. Do you think he may become the ultimate divine king? Qin Hanyan's eyes were as cold as ice. His beautiful eyes met the searching eyes of the ancestor of the Jiang family, and his voice was as cold as ice and snow. I don't know. The Jiang family ancestor's abyss-like eyes narrowed slightly, sharp as a knife. He had just deduced that the person on the stage was involved with Qin Hanyan. And this person is likely to be the final winner. This is a result that the ancestors of the Jiang family did not allow. This time the new divine king must come from the Jiang family. He originally wanted to talk to Qin Hanyan and ask her to take the initiative to withdraw from the battle between gods and kings, but he never thought that not only would she not listen to the advice, but she would also have such an attitude towards him. The ancestor of the Jiang family forced a smile on his face. Master Qin, you can succeed as the head of the family at such a young age, you must have something special about him, right? Qin Hanyan lowered her beautiful eyes and started thinking seriously. Although she is temporarily unable to practice, she can still use the spiritual plants in the medicine garden to make potions, which are no less effective than elixirs. She also used these medicines to improve the physiques of many juniors in the Qin family. After she repairs the damage to her soul, she will be able to achieve even greater achievements, and she will naturally be able to take the entire Qin family further. Qin Hanyan thought like this and said, this is natural. Master Qin is really arrogant. Ancestor just said a few polite words, but you actually took it seriously. As a woman, you didn't even learn etiquette, justice and shame, so you show yourself up. It's really embarrassing, a member of the Jiang family said with a sarcastic face. Jiang Fan, this is your fault. You don't understand some things clearly. Don't talk nonsense. This person is not ignorant of etiquette, justice and shame. I heard that she came back from the lower world and has never learned any rules. Another Jiang, the younger generation, stood up and said. Jiang Fan snorted coldly. No wonder, she turned out to be an ant from the lower realm. I think she has no cultivation at all. How did she get the position of head of the family? Another member of the Jiang family said. A woman must be embarrassed by a big job. I don't know what the previous head of the Qin family thought, but he actually gave the position of head of the family to a woman. The ancestor of the Jiang family heard what these disciples said and had no intention of stopping them. Obviously, these young men also stepped forward after receiving some kind of signal. After all, it would be a loss of status for an ancestor like him to confront a junior like Qin Hanyan. Some things still have to be left to peers. Jiang Chanyu sat next to the ancestor of the Jiang family with a complicated look in his eyes, but in the end he didn't say a word. Qin Hanyan didn't react at all when he heard what the children of the Jiang family said. Jiang Fan spoke up again. Ancestor, I remember that there are rules in the divine world that do not allow the throne to be passed on to women. Does the Qin family violate the rules by doing this? Does this mean that Qin Hanyan, the head of the family, does not count? Quote. The head of a small family stood up and echoed. I also remember that there is a rule that women cannot hold power, otherwise they will cause a lot of trouble when they get married. Then, all the affiliated families of the Jiang family stood up and accused the Qin family, indirectly accusing Qin Hanyan of not being worthy of being the head of the family. In the end, he even asked the Qin family to change the head of the family now. Many of the family heads looked like they were watching a good show, but no one stood up to speak for Qin Hanyan. Tang Chongji, who was beside Qin Hanyan, swept his eyes over the speakers one by one. The corners of Tang Chongju's lips curled up into a smile that looked even more evil, but the smile was a little penetrating. Those who spoke suddenly shuddered, looked around and found no danger, and then felt relieved. That's enough. Apart from her identity as a woman, can you discuss anything else? Shen Shuli stood up and scolded. Is Elder Shen trying to settle the injustice? The eldest elder of the Jiang family asked with a smile. Jiang Fan sneered. Are we wrong? Look, are there any women besides her? I heard that the current head of the Xuanyuan family is also a woman, and they know not to interfere in such occasions, but she's someone who came up from the lower realm just came here. Jiang Fan paused for a moment and continued. It's not about humiliating yourself, what is it? Elder Shen, if you speak for her, doesn't it mean that you have some shameful relationship with her? Shen Shuli's eyes were filled with anger. The god realm had been feudal for a long time, and he was afraid that if he said more, Qin Hanyan would make unnecessary remarks. Elder Shen, Jiang Fan is just a junior, and he has said some things indiscriminately. You must not argue with him. The eldest elder of the Jiang family smoothed things over with a smile. Jiang Fan, you are wrong. My aunt did not come to participate in the election of the Divine King because of something, which is not what you understand. Also, if my aunt were here, you would have been slapped the first time you said a word. Flying. Fang Jun's voice was clear and mellow, but it had a strong sense of oppression. Jiang Fan looked at Fang Jun's and did not dare to say anything. Unbeknownst to the gods, the Hidden World family and Liu Kanglan set up their formation together. That was a more important matter than the election of the Divine King. Fang Jun's also considered letting the Hidden World family seize the position of the Divine Lord at first. However, the Hidden family has been hidden from the world for too long, and its control over the Divine World is far less than that of the Fang family and the Jiang family. In addition, the canonization of the Divine King must come from the Jiang family to be recognized by heaven. Even if they are chosen, the Jiang family doesn't have to admit it. So they chose not to participate in the general election and arranged their formation well. As long as the evil dragon was held back and the crisis in the Divine World was relieved, there would be many ways to change everything in the future. The influence of the Fang family and Jiang family has been slowly decreasing over the years. As long as the Hidden family is given some more time, God's definite will no longer be controlled by the Jiang family and the Fang family in the future. Fang family boy, why has no one from the Hidden family come here? The voice of the ancestor of the Jiang family broke the silence. I just don't want to come. Besides, don't you already know the final candidate for the Divine Lord? Fang Jun said sarcastically. In the God realm, during these 7 days, there were several contestants who were stronger than Jiang Changfeng. It's just that they all encountered accidents. In the end, only 5 people on stage made it to the end. As for who the last man in black was, Fang Jun's was still quite curious. The Fang family boy is just kidding. The ancestor of the Jiang family finished laughing awkwardly, and his eyes fell on the competition platform. The ancestor of the Jiang family said in a calm voice, guys, the 5 of you are the candidates for the Divine Lord. However, if you want to be the Divine Lord, you must not only look at your strength, but also the ability to communicate with heaven and earth. So this last game is divided into the first half and the second half. In the first half, several of you entered the Heaven Sacrifice Tower. There are 7 floors in the Heaven Sacrifice Tower. Every time you go up to one more floor, you will gain an additional power of law, which is equivalent to getting closer to the way of heaven. Junior sister, we really can't roll anymore. Chapter 847 Obtaining the Heaven Sacrifice Tower. The scores are different depending on the number of floors you climb. Of course, there are dangers on each floor. Although they are not fatal, you still have to be careful, otherwise you may not have a chance to participate in the second half. The second half will test your ability to communicate between heaven and earth. On the sacrificial platform, you can ask thunder from the sky to fall. The more thunder that falls, it will prove who is more suitable to become the new Divine King. The one who performs best in these 2 games can become the God King. Several Heaven Sacrifice Towers will open later, please be prepared. As soon as the ancestor of the Jiang family said these words, Feng Qingqiong and Feng Jie looked particularly ugly. This is obviously the Jiang family trying to cheat. But they couldn't say anything yet. Jiang Changfeng and Jiang Changyu always stood there calmly, with expressions of determination. They glanced at each other, sparks flying. They only saw each other as rivals. Rumble. A tower rises from the ground. It's 7 stories high. The entrance is right in front of the competition platform. Come in, everyone. After the ancestor of the Jiang family finished speaking, Jiang Changfeng walked up to the tower and pushed the door open. But after Jiang Changfeng entered, the door slammed shut. Feng Qingqiong raised her hand to push the door, but she couldn't push it. Feng Qingqiong looked at the ancestor of the Jiang family with a cold face. What's going on? The ancestor of the Jiang family said calmly, Master Feng, the Heaven Sacrifice Tower has its own mysteries, and you need to be careful to push it open. Feng Qingqiong gritted his teeth, knowing that it must be the Jiang family who was behind this, but he had no evidence, so he could only concentrate on research. Before Feng Qingqiong could figure it out, the man in black stepped forward and said, Step aside, I'm blocking my way. Feng Qingqiong turned sideways. The man in black pressed on the door a few times, and the door really opened. As soon as the man in black stepped inside, the door closed instantly, giving Feng Qingqiong no chance to follow. Feng Qingqiong looked at the entrance with a livid face, and then remembered the actions of the man in black just now. He seemed to have figured something out and opened the door. Jiang Changyu followed closely, opened the door and went in. Only Feng Geilao was left, and he couldn't even open the door. The ancestor of the Jiang family narrowed his eyes slightly. Why did the man in black know how to open the Xuanmen? Could it be that he was a member of Xuanmen back then? But back then, the Xuanmen people were clearly wiped out by the Jiang family. Even if someone did escape, they were cursed and there would be no chance of turning over. However, before the ancestor of the Jiang family could continue to think about it, the lamp on the 7th floor of the Heaven Sacrifice Tower had already been lit. There were exclamations on the field. It can't be right. Is Master Jiang so fast? It's been less than a quarter of an hour since we entered, right? We've already reached the top. It seems that the Lord of God must be the head of the Jiang family. That's right. The Jiang family master is not only strong, but his understanding of the secrets of heaven is also different from ordinary people. Ellipsis. The ancestor of the Jiang family looked at the lights on the 7th floor and had a bad feeling in his heart. It was impossible for Jiang Changfeng and Jiang Changyu to reach the top so quickly. Even if he had brought 2 people into the Heaven Sacrifice Tower before, they would not have the strength to enter the 7th floor of the Heaven Sacrifice Tower. They can only enter the 7th level at most. Boom. 3 in a row. The 3 people were sent out by the Heaven Sacrifice Tower. Jiang Changfeng came out from the 3rd floor. Jiang Changyu is on the 2nd level. The 1st floor of Feng Qingqiong. The 3 of them were lying on the ground in a state of embarrassment. The ancestor of the Jiang family looked at the 3 people who came out and suddenly stood up. He had a bad feeling in his heart and immediately wanted to take back the Heaven Sacrifice Tower. The next moment, a man in black flew out from the 7th floor and landed gracefully. Then the Heaven Sacrifice Tower shrank in size and fell into his hands. The man in black said, This tower of yours is quite interesting. I just reached the 7th floor and insisted on recognizing me as my master. In this case, I will accept it. Presumptuous, you must have used some method. This is the property of our Jiang family, how can we recognize you as the master? The eldest elder of the Jiang family flashed and was in front of the man in black, raising his palm to attack him. The man in black didn't even try to hide. With a snap of his fingers, the eldest elder of the Jiang family flew back to his seat, and all his attacks hit him. Puff. The eldest elder of the Jiang family spit out a mouthful of blood. The man in black had a strong aura. Could it be that the Jiang family cannot afford to lose? The ancestor of the Jiang family felt distressed as he looked at the Heaven Sacrifice Tower in the hands of the man in black. His eyes were dark and unclear. Then he looked at Jiang Chanyu who was standing aside and said, Chanyu, go and open the altar. Jiang Chanyu accepted the hint from the ancestor of the Jiang family, nodded slightly, and walked to the competition stage. An altar appears above. Jiang Chanyu's eyes flickered and he was a little confused, but he still bit his fingertips, dripped the blood into the incense burner, and murmured a few words contemptuously. No one heard what Jiang Chanyu said, but they all saw a white light flying into Jiang Chanyu's body. The man in black weighed the offering to the Heaven Tower. It would be a good gift to give this to the wife of the domain lord as a greeting gift. I don't know what to call this person. The ancestor of the Jiang family looked at the man in black and asked. Ling Tianyun. The ancestor of the Jiang family thought for a long time, but did not think of a family named Ling. Everyone below was also confused. Where did Mr. Ling come from? Jiang Changfeng asked curiously. You don't deserve to know. Ling Tianyun said arrogantly. Jiang Changfeng subconsciously looked in the direction of his ancestor. He couldn't think of anyone other than someone from heaven who dared to speak to him in this tone. The ancestor of the Jiang family looked deeply and said, in the second half, let's invite Tianlei to start the competition in order of Ling Tianyun, Jiang Changfeng, Jiang Changyu and Feng Qingqiong. Ling Tianyun walked to the altar and looked up at the sky. It was easy to get struck by lightning. He was only afraid that thunder would strike down and leak his aura, causing Lord Mo to discover that he had come to the God realm. Ling Tianyun looked embarrassed. He could only let others be struck by lightning for him. He looked around and looked at the group below suspiciously. Can they really withstand the lightning strike? Everyone looked at Ling Tianyun's actions and thought that there was no way he could cause the thunder. Does Tianlei have any requirements for this? Ling Tianyun asked one more question. There are no requirements, as long as it can attract thunder. The ancestor of the Jiang family said coldly. Ling Tianyun felt relieved and raised his hand to raise his middle finger. This was something he learned in other star fields. He hoped the Tiandao would understand and not let him do it. Silence. Endless silence. Wu Shuang stared at Ling Tianyuan, wondering what he was doing. Ling Tianyuan coughed in embarrassment. It seemed that this friendly gesture did not reach this plane. Ling Tianyuan had no choice but to make a secret gesture. In the blink of an eye, the sky was filled with dark clouds and there was lightning and thunder. A purple lightning bolt struck straight down. Is it Zilei? It's actually Zilei. Could it be that there is a treasure from heaven and earth? Boom. A bolt of lightning strikes down. It fell on Jiang Fan. The next moment, another lightning struck, and a member of the Jiang family fell down. First the children of the Jiang family, then some of the younger family heads, and finally the elders of the Jiang family. Not long after, more than 20 figures fell down on the field and lay dying on the ground. All of them were people who had spoken to Qin Hanyan before. After all these people fell, Ling Yuntian looked around, and his eyes finally fell on the ancestor of the Jiang family. There's something weird about this old guy. Should I hack him? Junior sister, we really can't roll anymore. Chapter 848 3 Fires when the new official took office. The saint ancestor of the Jiang family immediately felt as if a cold sword was floating above his soul. Sweat broke out on his back. It had been many years since he had felt like he was going to die at any moment. The saint ancestor of the Jiang family looked at the purple thunder in the sky with a stern expression. Only those with great luck can attract the purple thunder. He glanced at Ling Tianyuan, who was as tall as a pine tree, and frowned, casually attracting Zilei's people. Maybe Ling Tianyuan was really a member of Xuanmen. Old man, are these Daolei enough? Ling Tianyuan asked with a smile. Enough. The final candidate for the Divine Lord this time is Ling Tianyuan. I will introduce the power of law to the young master. The ancestor of the Jiang family felt deeply threatened and said very quickly. And after the ancestor of the Jiang family finished speaking, a thunder struck Jiang Chanyu without any warning. The little leopard in Jiang Chanyu's arms flew to block this thunder disaster. The little leopard lost its breath instantly and its body was burnt. There was blood from the corner of Jiang Chanyu's mouth, and his face was as pale as snow. Before he could say anything, he fainted. The ancestor of the Jiang family squeezed the crutch in his hand and said, "Second elder, take Qian Yu down to rest." The second elder took Jiang Chanyu away. There was also a panic on the field. Many black people appeared and carried down those who had been knocked unconscious by lightning. Ling Tianyuan looked at the place where Jiang Chanyu left, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. It was really interesting that a small plane could hide a spiritual master. It's a pity that a person who has not grown up as a spiritual master dares to easily gamble against the will of the world, which is really overestimating his own capabilities. Jiang Chanyu is basically useless. In this regard, Ling Tianyuan did not show any emotion. Master Ling, there is something going on with the Jiang family today. How about extraditing the power of law to another day? Asked the ancestor of the Jiang family. Ling Tianyuan waved his hand. I don't need the power of extradition law, I just want the title of Divine Lord. Ling Tianyuan flicked his black robe and walked to the main seat where the ancestor of the Jiang family was sitting. Get up and let me sit. When he spoke, his tone was natural and relaxed, as if he was talking about an ordinary thing. Everyone who was still on the field looked shocked. How dare he? Doesn't he know the great reputation of the ancestor of the Jiang family? No matter how powerful the genius is, as long as he offends the Jiang family, he will end up badly. Ling Tianyuan wouldn't think that if he chose the God King, the God Realm would be his world, right? No matter what the people below think, the ancestor of the Jiang family really gave up the highest position. Ling Tianyuan sat up and took off his black hat, revealing his charming face. Ling Tianyuan had red hair on top of his head. He turned slightly sideways and leaned on the back of the Grand Master's chair. His whole body was domineering and wild, with the aura of a superior person. Young Master has become this Divine King, and your Divine Realm will be protected by me for the time being. If anyone dares to invade the territory of the Divine Realm, just come to me, and I will make it impossible for them to come back. In addition, Yudao is the first thing a new official takes office, and I cannot be an exception. First, all the rules in the divine world that place men above women are abolished. Women also have the right to decide their own lives, especially those about the 3 obediences and the 4 virtues. Don't let me hear it again. You all are not very capable, and you have learned a lot of bad habits. If you have time to study these, why not study how to practice correct exercises? Immortal cultivators still pay attention to the idea that men are superior to women. If word spreads about it, you are not afraid of people laughing at you. Are you the ancestor of the Jiang family? Ling Yuntian looked at the ancestor of the Jiang family with a half smile, and asked with a smile. He has been in the God Realm for a while and found that many of the broken rules here were developed by the Jiang family and the Feng family, and some upper-class families made them to plunder resources. However, some people are always very proud when they hear these rules. If these rules that oppress women continue to exist, they may harm the wife of the domain lord in the future, so it is better to abolish them in advance. Although the territory lord's wife would definitely not be aggrieved with the territory lord's presence, he would never let the territory lord's wife encounter such a bad thing. He wants to remove all obstacles on their road to love. After listening to Ling Tianyuan's words, the ancestor of the Jiang family lowered his eyes with suppressed anger. Master Ling, you are a divine king, what other ideas do you have? There was something strange about Ling Tianyuan, and the ancestor of the Jiang family decided to avoid the edge for the time being. In addition, Ling Tianyuan's 20-odd thunderbolts basically calmed down all the hearts that were about to move, so everyone else fell silent at this time. Ling Tianyuan smiled wantonly, took a deep look at the ancestor of the Jiang family, and continued, secondly, I think the God Realm seems to have closed all access to the outside world and refused to communicate with other places. This is not good, and progress cannot be achieved by being closed. So, I have rectified all the teleportation arrays in the God Realm. You can go wherever you want now. But remember one thing, never do bad things, otherwise you will never be able to return to God realm. Third, I feel that the head of the Qin family is quite good and modest, so you can't embarrass her just because she is a woman. Is that okay? After Ling Tianyun finished speaking, he looked around. Since he wanted to improve the status of women, he must naturally give women the opportunity to take power. Otherwise, no matter how many systems are established, they will be in vain. After listening to Ling Tianyun's words, Tang Chongji's eyes flashed with danger. He had been with Qin Hanyan for so long and had never seen Ling Tianyun at all. At this moment, Ling Tianyun suddenly appeared to show his favor to Qin Hanyan. Why? Qin Hanyan's beautiful eyes stared at Ling Tianyun in surprise. This person seemed to have never appeared in his memory. Why would he help him? The Lord God has already spoken, so there is no problem. Tang Chongji smiled evilly, which was quite charming. A demon dares to be so arrogant in the God realm. I like you, young master. Why don't you become my younger brother? Ling Tianyun looked at Tang Chongji with admiration in his eyes. If you raise a demon that you are born with and raise it well, you might be able to cultivate it into an excellent demon species. Tang Chongju's expression froze, as if he had been punched in the air, and he was speechless for a moment. Gods, if a demon appears in the divine realm, shouldn't it be killed? Lord God, what's going on? They couldn't guess Ling Tianyun's thoughts, and they didn't dare to speak. When Qin Hanyan saw that Tang Chongju was defeated, he rarely smiled. Tang Chongju had always made others speechless in the past, but this was the first time he saw him suffer. Thank you, Lord God. Qin Hanyan stood up and saluted politely. Ling Tianyun immediately came to Qin Hanyan and supported her. Miss Qin is too polite to take it seriously. Tang Chongju stared at Ling Yuntian's hand that touched Qin Hanyan's arm with cold eyes. This guy was definitely coming for Qin Hanyan. Ling Tianyun looked at Qin Hanyan with gleaming eyes, looking like a hungry wolf, and made up his mind to lure Qin Hanyan back to the immortal realm. With Qin Hanyan's qualifications, not going to the immortal realm would be a waste of money. But what reason should be used to turn back? Ling Tianyun was so absorbed in his thoughts that he was completely unaware of the strange looks around him. Qin Hanyan felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Ling Tianyun, but she felt no malice from it. She pulled her hand back and said softly, "The Lord God can bear it, and I thank you on behalf of all the women." Junior sister, we really can't roll anymore. Chapter 849 Come home with me. Ling Tianyun came back to her senses after hearing Qin Hanyan's words, and remembered the way she talked to the ancestor of the Jiang family before. Ling Tianyun decided to play straight. Miss Qin, since you want to thank me, why don't you come home with me? After he finished speaking, he looked at Qin Hanyan sincerely. As long as such a good seedling is turned back, he will definitely become a hero of the immortal realm. Ling Tianyun thought seriously and did not consider that his words might cause misunderstanding. Gods. Do you want to be a god, or do you want to kidnap your wife? Qin Hanyan was slightly stunned when she heard Ling Tianyun's straightforward words. She did not think that Ling Tianyun liked her and was thinking about his purpose. However, Tang Chongji next to Qin Hanyan clearly saw that her ears were red. When Tang Chongju and Qin Hanyan got along, they were mostly silent. He always felt guilty in his heart, so he chose to accompany her, hoping to wait for the right time to promote things between the two of them. But he never thought that Ling Tianyun would appear halfway. Ling Tianyun is powerful and has an even more arrogant personality. Tang Chongji looked at Ling Tianyun's arrogance in every gesture, and felt a stronger sense of crisis. Perhaps he could no longer wait for the opportunity and must seize the opportunity to impress Qin Hanyan. Does Mr. Ling need medicine? Qin Hanyan asked curiously. Potion. Ling Tianyun paused for a moment and said, yes, I need it. There is a patient in my family. My old man has mania. I want you to go and give him a look. If you can cure him, I will definitely pay you. After Ling Tianyun finished speaking, he sent a message to Qin Hanyan. If Miss Qin doesn't mind, I can help you repair the damage to your soul, which will be considered as a deposit. Wounds on the soul are extremely difficult to repair. First, it is because the elixir to repair injuries is extremely difficult to find. The second is to find a strong person who is stronger than yourself. When the strong person helps you repair the injury, but during the healing process, the injured person must completely trust this strong person. This is equivalent to giving others the opportunity to freely enter and exit one's own sea of consciousness. He could lose his mind at any time. Or be taken away from you. Dangerous. Therefore, most of the time, the first choice for those with injured souls is to look for elixirs. However, the second method of repairing soul damage is actually more effective. Ling Tianyun sincerely wanted to repair Qin Hanyan's injuries. As for whether to accept it or not, it was her business. He would not hide what he should say in his heart. Qin Hanyan met Ling Tianyun's charming eyes and saw her shadow in them. Her heartstrings moved slightly, but she still rejected Ling Tianyun. She wouldn't put her life in anyone else's hands. Qin Hanyan said goodbye to Ling Tianyun and turned to leave. Tang Chongju glanced at Ling Tianyun with complicated expressions and followed Qin Hanyan away. Ling Tianyun touched his chin and looked at Qin Hanyan's back. He was rejected. After traveling through so many worlds, this was the first time he encountered such a ruthless woman. Interesting. Ling Tianyun quickly withdrew his gaze and looked around, showing no interest. He decided to resolve the crisis in the God realm first and talk about the rest later. As Ling Tianyun left, the atmosphere on the field fell into an eerie silence again. They looked at me and I looked at you, and they always felt that what happened today was a bit magical. The ancestor of the Jiang family waved his hand and issued an order to expel guests. Everyone, the election of the Divine Lord has ended, please go back. Feng Jun stood up and said, Ancestor, the selection of the gods is over, don't forget about the alliance. Ling Tianyun came to the sky of the God realm. But before he could take action, the alienated beast seemed to have received some order, and disappeared into the God realm with their tails between their legs. Ling Tianyun touched his chin and murmured to himself, is the young master so intimidating? He scared away millions of alienated beasts before taking action. He specifically checked the entire fairy world and found that all the alienated beasts were gone. Then, he suddenly felt a mysterious aura, which was very familiar to him. Someone was setting up a protective formation below. Ling Tianyun came to a place based on his aura. I saw a man from Jilin Yushu setting up a formation. Nice approach. Just a little bit wrong. Before Ling Tianyun could get closer, Luan Jin blocked his way. Girl, I don't have any ill intentions. I just want to tell the brother in front that his formation can be improved a little bit. Ling Tianyun smiled in an angry tone. Liu Kanglan stopped his movements and looked at Ling Tianyun, who suddenly appeared, with a look of caution in his eyes. Brother, I'm really here to help you set up the formation. I'm the newly elected God Lord, and I also have the responsibility to protect the God realm. Ling Tianyun said sincerely, but his cynical attitude made it difficult for people to believe him. Are you from the Jiang family? Liu Kanglan asked in a deep voice. No, I am Ling Tianyun. Ling Tianyun looked Liu Kanglan up and down, nodding from time to time. Dressed in plain clothes, as gentle as jade, with orchids and jade trees, he must be the elder brother of the wife of the domain lord. Luan Jin said coldly, no, you are an outsider. What is the purpose of being elected as the God King of the God realm? Ling Tianyun didn't expect Luan Jin to be able to see through his identity. He was surprised for a moment and said, I came here for no purpose. I just took the name of a god. Luan Jin, come back. When Liu Kanglan heard that Ling Tianyun was an outsider, he didn't want Luan Jin to take risks. Just because he didn't spread evil thoughts, it didn't mean he wouldn't do evil things. Luan Jin flashed to Liu Kanglan's side, still maintaining a wary look. Ling Tianyun didn't care. He walked up to Liu Kanglan and pointed out several mistakes in the formation without mercy. There was no contempt or contempt in Ling Tianyun's words, and his tone was calm, as if he said the most ordinary thing. After Liu Kanglan checked the formation, he was shocked. Ling Tianyun got everything right. If the enemy attacks these weak points, the formation will be broken quickly. Thanks for the reminder, Brother Ling. I wonder where you learned from. Liu Kanglan asked sincerely. Ling Tianyun looked embarrassed. There were too many masters, so what should he do if he can't explain it? It's my fault. Now that Brother Ling is here, can I ask you a few more questions? Liu Kanglan said warmly. At the same time, Fairyland. Fang Qingran set up the formation, and together with Fang Si and Wan Ling, cleaned up the alienated beasts outside the Fairyland before returning to the Fairyland. Fang Qingran ordered Fang Si and Wan Ling to go to the first level to find Kun. She went to find Tian Dao alone. The Will of Heaven trembled. Master, the evil dragon is here. I didn't hide on purpose. It has surpassed my laws and I have no way to restrain it. Fang Qingran raised her hand and grabbed the colorful ball of light in front of her. Do you still remember the Battle of the Gods? The Will of Heaven said in fear, you can't mention it, it's a taboo. All the wills of the small world have been banned by the will of the great Tao, and the memory about that part has also been erased. Master, you'd better not pursue this matter. It will be detrimental to you. Once Star Tao discovers it, it will issue an obliteration order for you. The Will of Heaven advised worriedly. Do you want to get rid of the avenue and become an independent will of the world? Fang Qingran's clear apricot eyes seemed to contain countless gorgeous scenery. We really can't roll anymore. Chapter 850 Trying to change is worse than trying to change. Additional update 1. Master, can I really do this? The ball of light transformed into a small figure, with a faint look of expectation in his confused eyes. Fang Qingran nodded slightly, her almond-shaped eyes shimmering. Before, Kang Xuanji told her to take the road to the top and then change the rules. Now she doesn't want to do that, change the rules, it's better to rewrite them. It's not like she has no choice, so why should she stick to the rules? It is easier to find something new to cultivate and replace the previous will of the Great Road. That way, she wouldn't have to worry about the influence of the law on herself after changing her will. Fang Qingran actually considered using herself to become the will of the Great Tao, but if she chose that way, it would mean that she would also be trapped. That's not what she wants. She can choose to stay here, but she can never be trapped here forever. Therefore, she wants to cultivate a new will to protect this world. The will of the world in the fairy world is worth cultivating. As for the eye that covers the sky in the land abandoned by God, it is not yet the true will of the world, and its growth path is too slow. Master, I am willing to become an independent will of heaven. I will definitely protect the creatures in my world, the villain said impassionedly, as if he was taking an oath. Okay, as long as you cooperate with me, you will become an independent will of heaven and no longer controlled by the will of Tao. Fang Qingran said with a bright smile. Master, come on, I will never make any resistance. The villain simply lay down. Fang Qingran's mouth twitched, there was no need to be like this. Fang Qingran Yuanshan entered the void space and came to the front of the Hongmeng tree. Before Fang Qingran could say anything, Hong Mengshu said extremely irritably, don't even think about it. Fang Qingran sent a message, that painting. The Hongmeng tree's irritation disappeared, bring it here, you can only pick 10 leaves at most, save some. I'm going bald. When you have time, find more Hongmeng things to replenish them for me. Fang Qingran responded, when I finish the work in the immortal world, I will definitely go find Hongmeng's things for you. Fang Qingran took out the painting Hong Mengshu had been thinking about and brought it to it. The Hongmeng tree immediately fell into concentration, and no matter what Fang Qingran said, it did not respond. Fang Qingran observed it and found nothing special about the Hongmeng tree. He picked 10 leaves and put them into 9 boxes respectively. Just take out one piece and use it. The leaves are getting harder and harder to gather, so she has to treasure them. When a Hongmeng leaf appeared, the earth shook. The little man of wool jumped up, laid out several law barriers, and then took a deep breath. Fortunately, I acted quickly. If other wills notice the appearance of Hongmeng leaves, I am afraid that the whole world will not care and they will come to me. Fang Qinggran looked at the green leaves in his hand. The lines on the leaves were glowing with a faint purple color. Across the boundary sea, can they also detect Hongmeng's aura? The Wool Guy said nervously, of course, some Hongmeng things are born with seals and barriers that isolate the breath, which is difficult to detect, but Hongmeng leaves don't have them. If you don't use the power of law to set up barriers, it will definitely attract a lot of strange things. Weird stuff. As for the strange things, the Wool Guy didn't explain it. There are some secrets that cannot be revealed yet. Fang Qinggran handed the Hongmeng leaf to the Wool Villain. Swallow it, and I will help you get rid of the connection with the Wool of the Great Road. But you have to think clearly. Once you are separated from the Wool of the Great Road, it will be difficult for you to follow the road in the future. Being in a single world means that as long as the power is stronger than yours, there will be a way to take away your power of law to control the fairy world. Open the bow without turning back the arrow. I hope that going forward, you will always be as determined as ever. After Fang Qinggran finished speaking, the Hongmeng leaves came to the villain and gave it one last chance to make a choice. Master, I want to grow up alone, the villain said firmly. It had previously withstood the protection of the avenue. But that kind of protection comes at a price. The power of faith, good fortune and other opportunities it absorbs in the fairy world must be handed over to the Great Road. It can only rely on the power of laws given by the Great Tao, and has no way to practice it on its own. Later, Dao only knew how to take it from it and never gave it power again. It no longer remembers how long it has been since the Wool of the Great Tao has taken care of these little heavenly Daos. Independence is what it cares about most. Even if it may be controlled by Fang Qinggran in the future, at least for now, she puts it on an equal footing. The willful villain swallowed the leaves of Hongmeng. Seeing this, Fang Qinggran sat cross-legged, bit her fingertips, and drew several mysterious runes with blood. The runes gleamed with dazzling light and sank into the little man's body. Fang Qinggran pinched the magic formula. Bursts of bright green light formed a formation. The mark on Fang Qinggran's eyebrows appeared again, and then vast power poured into her body from the formation, and 5 dragon-shaped lights and shadows could be vaguely seen passing over the formation. Then entered her. Fang Qinggran's own cultivation level continued to rise again. The originally painful Wool Villain gradually stabilized, as if receiving a kind of feedback. Some of its own rules were being rewritten. A circle of mysterious ancient runes surrounded Fang Qinggran and the Wool Villain. The terrifying power of the ancient rune can be felt just by looking at it. At the same time, thunder roared in the fairy world, and a purple thunder as thick as a giant dragon shone in the air, illuminating the entire fairy world. Then, countless cyan petals slowly descended from the sky. The entire fairy world became full of vitality, and the auspicious signs made the immortals who encountered disaster seem to see new hope. Mo Jinggong raised his hand to take a petal, feeling the Taoist breath inside, his starry eyes became gentle. A purple thunder appeared in his palm, eager to try. Gahoo, those are the new fortunes that belong to this world. They are harmless and cannot be swallowed, Mo Jinggong said in a deep voice. The purple thunder in Mo Jinggong's palm disappeared. He had thought about many aspects before, but he had not thought of a suitable way to solve the problem of being deprived of Tao Qi. Unexpectedly, after Fang Qinggran understood the Tao Dharma, she would use her own Tao to connect with the Wool of the world and give the world the Tao breath again. This method is good, but it has certain risks. If the Wool of this world is destroyed, oneself will also suffer heavy losses. However, as long as one's own strength is strong enough, the Wool of the world will also be stronger. A strong person will not be afraid of any difficulty. Time is fleeting. After Fang Qinggran finished everything, she came to Mo Jinggong's side several years later. During this time, Mo Jinggong did not move an inch. Jinggong, please wait. Fang Qinggran was already at the Quasi-Emperor level at this moment. Soon, Mo Jinggong said warmly. Fang Qinggran and Mo Jinggong returned to the first level. Fang Xi and the others were all waiting there, and it could be seen that their strength had improved more or less. Little Master, Da Kun was the first to rush over, wanting to cry to Fang Qinggran, but he felt a strong sense of oppression. It glanced sideways and saw Mo Jinggong at a glance, and it suddenly became furious. What do you want to do here?